Today we're going to be talking about 7.1, and this is all about writing expressions and equations. So today we're going to talk about some math words. I want you to look up here. This is just very similar to what your handout is, the yellow paper that I just gave to you. But I want you to look up here and read to me the key words that you might need whenever you are adding something. Read them to me. Add, sum, increase by, together, more, plus, and. All right, so if you have something that says 2, you need to add together 2 and 4, okay? You would just know that that keyword and means you've got to plus them or add them together, okay? If I say 2 plus 3, what's the answer? 5. If I switch that around and I say 3 plus 2, what's the answer? 5. Did the order matter when I'm adding numbers? Nope. No, any order is fine, okay? Let's go on to the next one. Look over here at the subtraction sign. What are the 5 words that you see there? Subtract, difference, decrease by, minus, take away. Okay, so let's say that I've got a simple example here, 5 minus 2. What is 5 minus 2? 3. Let's say I switch it around and I do 2 minus 5. What's my answer? -3. That would be -3. Do you think the order matters for those? Yes. Yes, so with your red pen, I want you to pull it out, and we're going to write there next to that area, order matters. All right, so just remember, whenever you're subtracting, the order that you put it in will make a big difference. Let's look at the next one down here. When we are dividing, you'll see these are some key words for division. Read them to me. Per, quotient, share, divided by, radio. Okay, so easiest one probably there would be divided by. Okay, if you see something like that, then you obviously know it's going to be a division sign. Okay, for this, when you are dividing, guess what? The order matters, okay? Let's say that I have 10 divided by 2. What is 10 divided by 2? 5. If I had 10 people, I want to put them into 2 groups, there would be 5 people in each group. What about this? 2 divided by 10.
-5.
If I have 2 people, can I divide them into 10 groups?
No.
No, okay? So does order matter whenever you are doing division? Yes, so I want you to write there with your red pen, somewhere near it, order matters. All right, next up we have some words that are going to help us whenever we are using multiplication. Read those to me. Product times of multiple twice, okay? So those are key words. Whenever we are multiplying something, look for those key words, and then you'll know that you need to multiply. Next up, we've got some things here that are going to help us with equals, okay? Key word whenever you have equals that you might find is going to be the word what? Is. What are some other ones?
Are, be, will be, give, total.
Okay, those are all things that are going to help you a little bit to know when you are using the equal sign. Next up, I want us to look at some parenthesis words. Go ahead and take your red pen and draw a cloud around the parenthesis words. All right, we're putting a red cloud around it because that means this is important. This is something we really want to know on this handout that I gave to you. If I have something that says the sum of, which one of those signs or operations do you think I'm going to use? Adding, okay? Anytime that you have the sum of, you're going to put adding. So I want you to go ahead and put a plus sign there. Now here's the key thing that you want to know. Parenthesis words means you're going to have to put these into parentheses, okay? And we'll have some examples that I'll show you here in just a bit. Next up, if it says the difference of, what sign does that mean? That is subtraction. Anytime you see that word difference of, it's always going to be subtraction. Next up, another important thing, draw a red cloud around this for me, please, is some turnaround words. The key word that you want to know whenever it's a turnaround word is the word than. So I want everybody right now to go ahead and stand beside your chair. Just to help you visualize, I want you to go ahead and turn around one time for me, and everybody say the word than. Than. One more time, everybody turn around and say than. Than. This is a turnaround word, which means you're going to have to turn some things around in your expression or your equation. So I want you to have a seat right here. If you see something that says less than, what sign will that be? Minus. You will have to use the minus sign. If you see something that says more than, what will you have to do? Add. Use your red pen. Put it right there next to it in your notes. Next up, fewer than. Which one would that be?
Subtract.
You're going to subtract it, okay? Fewer than, less than is all very similar. Down here it says a number. Anytime that you have a number, those words there, that simply means to put a variable there. And in your instructions, it will always be very specific about what your variable needs to be. On this next slide, I want you to go ahead and write these two definitions of some words we'll be talking about today in our lesson. The first definition you see here says it's an expression. This is made up of numbers, variables, and operations. The number here is obviously a 3. What is the variable in my example here?
Y.
A y, and then what's the operation? Plus. Okay, so that's just telling you what to do to that right there. Now let's look at the next one. It says an equation. It's two expressions with an equal sign between them. The example I gave to you is 2x plus 3 equals 6x. There's only one difference between an expression and an equation. One of them has a what? An equal sign. That's the only difference between the two. For our first example today, we're going to write the verbal phrase as a variable expression and let x represent the number. So we're going to use the yellow handout that I gave to you just to kind of see if there's anything that we need to pay attention to. The first thing I want you to look at is that red cloud that we drew around the parenthesis words. What are the two phrases that are my parenthesis words on that yellow handout? The sum of and the difference of. Looking here at our first example, does it ever say in there the sum of or the difference of? No. There's only one other thing I want us to check before we do this problem. The turnaround words. What key word will always be in a turnaround word? Than. Do you guys see the word than in our first example? No. So this means we are simply going to just read this from left to write our expression. Let's look at the first part. Whenever it says here a number, instead of writing a number, we're going to write, what does it say at the bottom of our yellow handout? A variable. What variable did our instructions tell us to put? X. So instead of writing a number, we are just going to write X. Let's kind of take this apart. Next up says increased by. What operation means increased by? To add. So we're just going to put a plus. And then what's the last number that you see there? 5. For this problem, you don't have to solve anything. All we were doing is just writing an expression. So a number increased by 5 means the same thing as x plus 5. Okay, so just like always, we're going to check to see if there's any parenthesis words or turnaround words. What are my parenthesis words that are on the yellow handout? The sum of, the difference of. Do you see that there? No, neither of those are there. What about turnaround words? Do I have a turnaround word there? What's the turnaround word? Less than. I want you to take your red pen out just to help us identify this is a turnaround word. Okay, so we've got to make sure that we don't just read from left to right, but instead our turnaround word simply means you're going to turn those two things around your sign a little bit different, okay? So let's talk about this. Less than. What sign goes with less than? Subtract, okay? We know we're going to be subtracting something there. So normally I just read from left to right, but this time it's being turned around. So instead of the 7 going right here in front of my minus sign, where will the 7 go? After the minus sign. So then next I've got a number. What am I writing for a number? A variable. What variable do I have to write? X. So where does the X go? It's going to go in front of that minus sign because all you were doing was switching or turning around the order of your 7 and your number. Okay? So what this means, x minus 7. Now remember, on that yellow piece of paper, we said something about subtraction. What did you write in red near the subtraction? Order matters. Okay? Some people might have normally just looked at this and said, oh yes, that means 7 minus x. But 7 minus x is not the same thing as x minus 7. So you got to be careful and look very closely for those turnaround words. Problem C says 3 more than twice a number. Do I have any special words here that I've got to either put parentheses around or turn around the words? More than. Everybody use your red pen, underline the words more than. More than is what kind of a word? A turnaround word, not parentheses, but a turnaround word, okay? So because of that, let's think about more than. What sign goes with more than? Plus, addition, okay? So where do I put the 3? I have to turn it around. So instead of just sticking it right here, I have to put it after the plus sign. Now this is all I have left. Twice a number. I want you to look at your yellow handout, or you might already know this, but where do you see the word twice on your yellow handout? Multiplication. Any time that you have the word twice, it always means you're multiplying. What number do you think you're going to be multiplying? Twice. What does twice have to do with? 2, okay? So I need 2 what? Okay, twice is a 2, and then a number is my variable, which is x. So I'm going to put it right here in front, making my expression 2x plus 3. All right, so remember we are only trying to come up with an expression that has to do with these words. This is what it says. 4 decreased by the quotient of a number and 7. Do you see any of our turnaround words or parenthesis words here? Decreased by. Where do you see decreased by? Is that a parenthesis word or a turnaround word? Okay, it's subtraction, so it's not a turnaround word or a parenthesis word, okay? So this means we can just move from left to right. So let's look at the first one, 4. All you have to do is just simply go right underneath and write a 4. Next up, we are going to, remember, we're just kind of decoding this. Decreased by. Landon just told us, what does decreased by mean? Subtract. So I'm going to put a little subtraction, okay? Next up, I'm kind of doing it in different colors to hopefully help you to break it up a little bit. The quotient of. What sign is the quotient of? If you don't know that, you can look at your yellow handout. It's not multiplication. Quotient, what is it?
Division.
Division. Whenever we're doing division like this, we're just going to use a fraction bar. So I'm going to use that fraction bar right there to help me. Next up it says a number. What are we writing down whenever it says a number?
X.
X. So do you think X goes on the top or the bottom? It came first, so what do you think? Because it came first, we're putting it up on the top, okay? And then finally, the last thing, what else do I need to put?
The 7 under it.
The 7 will just go underneath it. All right, so 4 minus x divided by 7 is the same thing as 4 decreased by the quotient of a number and 7. All right, so really you're just kind of reading from left to right and trying to figure out what it is that the problem is asking you. The instructions for example 2 are slightly different than example 1. I've written it in red here. It says to write the verbal sentence as an equation. That's the only difference. We're writing an equation instead of an expression. What is the one thing that we said in our beginning definitions that's the difference between an equation and an expression? Has an equal sign. That's it. So this time we know we're going to have an equal sign here, okay? And instead of having an x like we did before, we're going to put y. Now in your examples, a lot of times it's not going to be specific and you can choose the variable that you want to do. Let's look at the first one. 16 increased by a number is 27. Let's go ahead and read together what are my parenthesis words that we need. Look at your yellow handout. What are they? Everybody read it to me. What are they? The sum of, the difference of. Does it say that in problem A? Nope, so I know I don't have any parenthesis words. What about turnaround words? What's my key word for a turnaround word? Than. Does it say than? No, so all I get to do is read it from left to right. Is there anyone who feels comfortable enough to try to do this on their own? JD, help me out. What should I write?
16 plus y equals 27.
Okay, he says 16 for increased by, then he says that's going to be plus. A number, he says y, then he broke down the word is, which is always going to be an equal sign, and 27. Excellent job, JD. Questions for how he did that? No questions. All right. Problem B says the difference of twice a number and 3 equals -4. First things first, every single time you come to a problem like this that's asking you to write an expression or an equation, you want to always check out your parenthesis words and your turnaround words. So read them together for me, guys. What are my 2 parenthesis words? The sum of, the difference of. Do I have either of those here?
Yes.
Yes, I do. Pull out your red pen, and I want you to underline. This is just so it stands out to you. The difference of. What kind of a word is the difference of? It says parenthesis words. So what we're going to do, that simply means right there, I need to have parentheses. Now if I have the difference of, what sign goes in the middle of those parentheses? Minus, all right? Anytime you have the word difference, it's always going to be subtract. Now we're just going to keep going from left to right. This next part says twice a number. Is there anyone who thinks they know how to put that into our parentheses for twice a number? Katie, what do you think?
It would be 2y.
2y, good job. So that's going to go. I'm reading once again from left to right because this is not a turnaround word, so you're just doing left to right. Twice a number and 3, so 3 is going to be the next number that I need to write, equals, it's pretty simple whenever they tell us the word equals because we just know it's going to be an equal sign. And what does it equal, guys?
4.
Not 4.
Negative 4.
Negative 4. And that is how you write the difference of twice a number and 3 equals negative 4. Next up says the product of 1/2 and a number is 36. Always look first before you do anything else. Are there any parenthesis words? Does it say the sum of or the difference of? No, it does not. Do I have any turnaround words? Do I have the word than in there? No. So I am moving just from left to right. Asia, see if you can help me out. Where it says here the product of, what sign is that? I've got to multiply, okay? So what am I multiplying, Asia? 1/2 and a number. What do I do for the number part?
1/2 and then times the number.
Right. So you know that I need to multiply 1/2 times y. What's the best way to do that? How do I show that?
1/2 times.
Should I put a times y?
No.
No, because that looks like an xy.
Oh, dot y.
Okay, you could put a dot y, but guess what else you can do? You could just simply put a y, okay? Because any time that you have a number, that number, whenever it's directly next to a letter, that means to multiply, or that means the product of, okay? So, Asia, keep going for us. We have 1/2 y, then what?
Then there's an is, so it would be equal.
Good job, because is means equals.
And then you put 36 after the equals.
Very good job. So the product of 1/2 and a number is 36 is the same thing as 1/2 y equals 36. Final example for problems 2. D says -3 is equal to twice the sum of a number and 2. Check those words that we got to know first. First off, your parenthesis words. What are my parenthesis words?
The sum of the difference of.
The sum of the difference of. Is that there?
Yes, the sum of.
Okay, I see the sum of, so go ahead and take your red pen and underline it. Then when we get to that point, we know we have to do what?
Parentheses and minus sign.
We will have to do the parentheses, okay? So let's read from left to right first, and then when we get to that part, we got to remember to put parentheses. -3 is equal to twice the sum of a number and 2. What should I do first, Isabel?
-3.
Okay, before anything else, I'm going to write -3. Let's just keep tearing this apart. Is equal to, what should I put next, Emma? Okay, an equal sign. Next up, twice. What do you think I do to symbolize twice?
2.
The number 2, very good. Now is when we have our thing that we underlined, the sum of a number. Why did we underline it? To help us remember that it's a what?
Parentheses.
It's parentheses, so I'm going to put parentheses here. And whenever it says sum, what sign should we put in the middle?
Adding.
Plus. Okay, so when we have first here a number, what will we be putting there for a number? Y plus what?
2.
2. -3 equals 2 times y plus 2. Write a verbal phrase or sentence for the expression or equation. So basically now we're doing the opposite. This right here is an expression. It says 13b. Can anyone explain to me what 13b means?
13 times.
Very good, okay? So he says 13 times b, but according to our lingo that we've been using, instead of saying b, you'll put 13 times a number. For that, just remember anytime, like we said before, you have a number right next to a variable, that always means to multiply them together. Who feels like they could do problem B? You gonna try it?
A number plus 8 is 34.
Very good. All right, he says a number plus 8 is 34. Okay, are there any words there that you could have done different than he did? What could you have done differently? Okay, a number increased by 8 is 34. Very good. What else could you have switched up?
You can say is to equals.
Instead of saying is, you could say a number plus 8 equals 34, okay? So there's tons of different words on this yellow handout that I gave to you. On your homework tonight, when it asks you that, there's not one right or wrong answer. You can use the different words that you want to help you come up with the correct answer, okay? So that is pretty much what you need to know for 7.1. All about expressions and equations. This is tonight's homework for you. It's just 10 problems like normal. So go ahead and pull out a piece of paper and I want you to write this down for tonight's homework.